Right now, turning empty properties into a goldmine for Airbnb is simpler than it has been in the recent future. You have a surplus of properties lingering on the market that are looking for somebody to do something with it. That can be you, and you just have to take advantage. This is opportunities for purchasing and for arbitrage that we haven't seen in recent memory. But be aware, because if you don't have the right approach, you're gonna miss out on this golden window, or even worse yet, is gonna be you're gonna take on the wrong properties. I've been mastering Airbnb for over a decade now, taking on properties that other people are turning down and don't want anything to do with, and turning those things into cash cows. I've been in a super competitive market, and I've been able to do this consistently over the years, and that's definitely not gonna change and is only going to increase as these opportunities present themselves more than ever before. In a lot of markets right now, the real estate market is essentially at a standstill. Properties are not moving. This is not in every real estate market, but in a lot of markets, this is happening. This isn't only properties for sale, this is also properties for rent. You have a lot of properties for rent in my market, and I've seen it in other markets that I've researched as well. This is a great opportunity for you to snap up these properties. These owners are now looking to get rid of these properties and take these things off of their hands, and that's where you can come in and do arbitrage at scale that you haven't had an opportunity to do in recent memory. Because you have the ball in your court, and it's going to be more of a buyer's market, you can dictate the terms better than you could before. You can use this to your advantage in a great way. Now, you can negotiate those favorable terms, and that would include things such as lower rent, lower security deposit, and maybe optionality on the contract, either to purchase or optionality to extend the lease for an extended period of time at the same price. That's what I like to do. I like to sign 12-month leases and then get at least 1 to 2 years of options where I have full control of the property for a minimum period of 2 to 3 years. I'm even going to increase that here in the near future if I can, just because it gives you increased flexibility and it doesn't cost you anything. Now, in this environment with all these different opportunities there, how do you determine the properties that you really want? This is super important. Let's assume you only have limited resources and limited time. You want to make sure that you're taking the properties that have the highest profit potential. You know, with all Airbnbs, the amount of work is essentially the same, give or take. Not exactly, but overall, for every property you take, you're going to have more inquiries, more maintenance headaches, and more things to deal with. So you're better off taking properties that are going to make more money, all things being equal. You want the property that makes more profit than the other one that doesn't. You want to focus initially and try to get those high producing properties first. Now, in every market, this is going to be a little bit different. Now, typically, I would not be looking in the best part of town for these properties. The reason being, in the best part of town, you're going to pay the highest prices. That could be the highest rent price, or it's going to be the highest purchase price. I like to look in areas that are adjacent to these areas. You're still in a good location, but you're a little bit further out from the most expensive zip codes. Those things just don't offer returns the same way that these ancillary neighborhoods do. This also goes for cash flowing rental properties, and this also goes for when you're buying apartments or something like that and you're looking for cash flow. Typically in the most expensive neighborhoods, you're not going to excel at getting a lot of cash flow. This is the same thing in Airbnb, especially in this case, because in Airbnb, we're primarily looking for cash flow. So you have those same dynamics at play where the ancillary areas are going to produce more than the really high-end areas. This is not set in stone, but most of the time this is true. Now, what I like to do is look for properties that, again, like I said, have the highest gross monthly income. And specifically, you want the highest gross monthly income to the monthly cost ratio. I'm typically looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 times what the cost is. I want that to come in from the income. So if the cost is $5,000 per month, I want to be bringing in about $12,500. This kind of gives me a baseline number that lets me know, okay, this has potential to make sense for me, or if it's lower than that, then it probably doesn't. In every market, that's going to be a little bit different, and the numbers that move your needle might be a little bit different, but that's kind of a safe ratio to use. If you're going to be hiring a third-party property manager, then you may need to look for something with even a little bit of a higher number, because you're going to be paying, 15 to 25% for that management fee. If you're self-managing, then you can do somewhere in that neighborhood. Again, the thing to remember is that you have lots of options, and the workload is going to be similar from one property that's a small 1-bedroom that brings in $1,000 a month versus the 3-bedroom that brings in $4,000 a month. The workload is going to be essentially the same, but you want to play in the big leagues. So swing for the biggest property that you can, the most profitable property that you can, especially if you have a little bit of experience. If this is your first property and you're just looking to get into it, start a little bit smaller, get your feet wet, but ultimately that should be your goal. You're really looking for these highest producing properties. Even if you're just getting into it, let's say you're looking at these smaller properties, then rather than something big, you're still going to have different options that you can compare those to. And out of those, find the ones that are most profitable and only focus your attention on those. I know some people have messaged me over the last couple of years and they've said that they're struggling to find properties and struggling to get owners on board. That is going to change if it's not already changed for you because of this change in the environment. Take advantage of it. Get into the business. You know, you see these rumors about Airbnb bust and that sort of thing. That's not true at all. I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing a little bit of a softer consumer, but that's normal, and that's not something that I'm going to shy away from. Some markets are definitely oversaturated. You have areas such as Joshua Tree and these areas where tons of people purchased properties there to do Airbnb during COVID, and now they're liquidating a lot of those. So those are environments where definitely there is going to be some issues in there, but it doesn't mean you shy away from those either. I'm even looking at Joshua Tree. I love Joshua Tree. I may purchase something there in the next couple of years. That would be something that I would look at for profit, but also as a secondary home for myself as an investment property that I can go to relax. Now, a lot of people ask, where exactly are they going to find these properties? It's the same ways that I've showed you guys previously, but with a little bit of a twist to it. First place to look is look for struggling Airbnbs. Look for people that aren't doing very well and they're getting out of the business. Maybe they overpaid for all their things. Maybe they're paying too high a rent. Maybe they purchased the property at too high of a price. Look for those opportunities and start there. Message Airbnb hosts. Look at the properties that looks like the calendar is sitting pretty empty. You can obviously see that just by looking at the calendar on the listing. If they have a lot of vacancy upcoming, send them a message. See if they're interested in potentially getting rid of that Airbnb. See if you can take it over. Maybe you can step in as a property manager and just collect a fee on it. That's really an easy way to get in there, where you really don't have a lot of skin in the game there, but you have an opportunity for the profit potential. That's really the easiest way I would say to get in, is doing that and trying to offer your management services and see if you can operate it for somebody. But that's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that. But again, that's an easy way to get into it, and you don't need a lot of capital. Another way to do this is look for properties that have been for sale for more than 60 days. Message them, and you don't even necessarily need to try to buy these properties. All you need to do is message them and see if they're interested in making some cash flow. They're sitting there empty. That property is not selling. It's going to continue to sit there and bleed cash for them. You offer to step in as the Airbnb operator and either take that over as a rental arbitrage deal or offer to take it over and actually manage it for them. Maybe the property is already staged and it's already essentially set up for Airbnb. All you have to do now is basically go in and purchase additional bedding, make sure the kitchen is fully stocked, and you can turn that thing into a profitable Airbnb very easily. This is going to be appealing to a lot of people that are selling properties that have been sitting on the market and aren't doing anything with it. Yes, their dream is maybe to sell the property, but if they're not selling it, they're gonna have to look at other options and look at other options pretty quickly. That's where you can step in as the operator, as the Airbnb arbitrage expert, and sign a lease with them and give yourself the flexibility and use that to your benefit to negotiate favorable terms for you. Negotiate multiple years on options on the lease if you can, and negotiate favorable terms in terms of a low security deposit and lower rent than you would ordinarily pay. Now, in that same vein, you can also look for properties that have been sitting for rent for a while. Properties have been sitting for rent for a while. You know they want to obviously rent it out. You come in there as the Airbnb arbitrage person, offer to sign a lease for them, get them cash flow right away, and then you can turn that thing into a cash cow and you make a lot of money on it. That's going to be market dependent. You know, as some markets are still very strong rental markets, you know, that's for certain, but other markets are definitely a softer rental market. So if you're in one of those opportunities are going to present themselves right now. And if not, those are probably going to be down the road in the near future when the economy really turns. Like I mentioned before, we're already seeing a reduction in job numbers. So as those job openings come down, that typically is something that is preceding a recession. Now, another way to get these deals is good old-fashioned phone calls to agents. Agents are your friend. They are on the front lines with properties all the time. Call around, talk to them, make those connections, and find out if they have any properties for lease or any owners that want to do Airbnb. Now, a lot of people are more familiar with Airbnb, so I think you're going to have opportunities to do property management very easily. You're going to have owners more than before that want to be involved themselves. So in that case, that's going to save you the capital because they're going to pay for all the furnishings and everything. But if you really get higher end properties that are going to make some money and you can take 20 to 25% of that, that's not a really bad deal. Especially if you don't have a lot of experience, you're offering your time and labor in lieu of actually capital to get that thing operating. That puts most of the risk on the owner. And even if the property is a flop, you don't have to be as worried about the property being an amazing opportunity as if you're putting all your own capital into it. You have to scrutinize those obviously a lot more because you're putting your own capital behind it versus in a management deal where you're operating it for owners, you can be a little bit more lenient in what you take on because you're not going to have a whole lot of risk. This is the moment right now to turn empty spaces into cash flow opportunities for you. With the right strategy and the right angle, you can capitalize on this unique opportunity. I think it's still going to only improve, meaning there's still even going to be better opportunities down the road. But at any point in time right now, you already have opportunities in every market basically that are sitting there waiting for you. If you guys haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. And also make sure to download the free Airbnb rental arbitrage blueprint, which you can find in the show notes. Thanks for watching, guys.